for the win. It's good!
Pokuševski takes flight
as SGA plays through the contact, banks it in on the foul.
What is up, Thunder fans? Happy Valentine's Day. What a way to celebrate Valentine's Day, as we'll get into. Welcome to the Uncontested Postgame Podcast. We are a proud part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and the official podcast of SI Thunder. You can find us on all social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even TikTok. I think there's going to be a lot of highlights from tonight's game that'll be up on YouTube and TikTok. Stay tuned. I'm your host for tonight, Taylor Peterson. You can find me on Twitter at Taylor_P15. And I am joined by none other than the Trey Mann to my Josh Giddey, Jacob Niven.
What's up?
What a game, Jacob. I mean, it's tough to even know how to intro into this one. Look, during the tank, there's still been some very fun games that we've got to cover. But this has been this was probably one of my favorite ones in a very, very long time. Maybe even dating back to the CP3 season. The Thunder end up beating the Knicks 127-123 in overtime at Madison Square Garden as the Thunder rookies, being Trey Mann and Josh Giddey, alongside many other solid contributors, put on an absolute incredible performance. Just a really, really fun game. One of my favorite parts of tonight, Jacob, was after the game. I just stayed on Twitter on the account, was just scrolling and looking at all the new stats popping up about, which we'll get into, Josh Giddey, et cetera, et cetera. Here's one about Trey Mann. Trey Mann from Thunder Communications. Trey Mann recorded a career-high 30 points on 9 of 16 field goals and 4 of 7. It was just his stats, but still. Just really fun stuff. How much fun did you have tonight?
It was a blast, man. So I watched the first half kind of intermittently. I was working out at the gym, so I was trying to watch on my phone while I was working out. Got home. It was a good night. Got home, watched the second half of the game, ate some tacos, had some pancakes for dessert. Watched Josh Giddey nearly have a 30-point triple-double. Taylor, I'm not going to – you're the host tonight, so you steer the ship. I got some takes tonight.
Oh,
I can't wait. I got lots of takes tonight.
I'm just here to
I'm excited
Josh
to fire
Giddey lob you some alley-oops. I can't wait. I guess just some pregame notes prior to the game. Just a couple interesting things and some noteworthy things. Tonight, the Thunder, this is just kind of provides context to how incredible this performance really was tonight from the Thunder. They were without Shea, Lou, obviously still JRE, and Muscala out with foot and or ankle injuries. Lou was a late scratch, I believe this morning is what Daynault said when they found out about his shoulder. Doesn't surprise me. Very similar. Exactly. Yeah. Jacob's doing quotations for those of you listening to the podcast version and not watching us live. And he is spot on. Very reminiscent of when Lou Dort got hit in the face here. What was it, a week or so ago? And they continued to play through the game, but then set one game before getting a mask and continuing to play. Well, something similar happened Saturday night's game that I think Jacob and I also covered. Wait, no. I don't know. Somebody covered. No, we didn't cover Saturday night's game. Jacob and I covered
it. We talked about it Sunday morning.
That's what it was. Yesterday. Long story short, Lou, it kind of a similar situation. Lou finishes the game, but then is out probably for the rest up until All-Star break. Just gets some
just
one rest
more game.
And tank. And I would be remiss if I didn't also mention that the Knicks were without their best player, RJ Barrett, and they still are without Derrick Rose, but obviously still a lot of talent on the floor for the Knicks, as we'll get into.
A lot of experience
too.
Okay, so hot take or not hot take? Just take. This isn't a hot take. Just take. The Knicks suck. Are you going to get into
the Thunder starter? Yeah.
No, the Knicks just flat out suck.
The Thunder started, so Thunder start Giddey, Mann, Wiggins, Baisley, and Roby. To your point, Jacob, I think you tweeted this out. And the reason I say this is because I think this is what you're getting into. Three rookies,
a G League guy,
and a third-year player.
And currently in recovery, Darius Baisley.
Yeah, right.
And the Knicks start their all-star, Julius Randle. They have lots of experience up and down the roster. The Knicks just suck, dude. We'll get into this. I think a lot of what the Thunder are doing, keeping games close, winning games 4-5 with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander out of the lineup, is attributed to the culture the Thunder have built, the accountability the Thunder have built. I think all of that is something we'll talk about that probably eventually on the show. Yeah. But the Knicks just suck. There is, I don't know how to say it. They just suck. Like there is no alignment between front office and the coaching staff and the players. I mean, shit, they traded a first-round pick for Cam Reddish, who doesn't even play because the coach doesn't want to play him. You'd think you'd sort that out before you pulled the trigger on the trade.
Yep.
Like it's dysfunction.
Or you go to the coach and say, look,
play
I'm your boss and you're going to play him.
Yeah. And like the Thunder don't have any of those issues at all. They have an incredibly sound culture. They've built something very special with Mark Daigneault and Sam Presti. They are very closely aligned. They work in lockstep. The Knicks are just bad. That's takeaway number one. The Knicks just suck.
And yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we'll get into this, but Julius Randle gets a monster triple-double, and like you said, the Knicks still can't pull it off. Mitchell Robinson, the Thunder don't even play a true big, a true center the entire game, unless you consider Favors a true center, who didn't even really get all that much burn, and they still can't take full advantage of that. While you were saying that,
meanwhile, Julius Randle gets a triple-double on inefficient shooting.
Right.
11 to 26 from the field, 1 to 5 from 3.
Skittles, as Mark Daigneault would call it. Thunder Communication tweeted this. I alluded to this earlier when we did the intro. Some of the fun stats still trickling out from this game. Thunder Communications just now tweeted that Giddey and Mann are the only pair of rookies in the past decade to both score 28 plus points in the same game. Only pair of rookies in the past decade. That's pretty phenomenal. So I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into this.
That's awesome.
An absolute wild game. I mean, I'm not going to do a full game recap before we get into things, but basically, first quarter can be summed up with Giddey and Mann both come out hot. That was great. Second quarter, the Knicks and Thunder are kind of trading blows. Third quarter, the Knicks come out hot. The Thunder are able to sustain that. They come back down from, I believe it was a 12-point lead. Do you remember the highest that the Knicks were up by? It was something
I think it was 12 or 13. That sounds right.
And then after coming out on a 6-0 run out of the half by the Knicks, Thunder go on a 9-0 run in the third quarter, including 2 threes by Bazley on passes from Giddey, mind you, and another 3 from Giddey himself, and OKC retakes the lead 89-87. Basically, from that point, the Thunder just keep exchanging blows with the Knicks. I thought Ty Jerome had a great fourth quarter. We can get into that some in a little bit, but Ty Jerome had 2 huge threes to keep it close, and then had a nice little pull-up, had 8 points there in like the first 4 minutes of the quarter that really kind of kept OKC going there in the fourth, allowed them to get their main guys in the game, who happen to be rookies, by the way. But it was ugly there in the fourth quarter. OKC goes scoreless for 4 minutes, down 4 with the ball, with 1:07 left in the game. Giddey hits both free throws for the first points for OKC since like the 7-minute mark, or sorry, I think it was like the 6-minute mark after Ty Jerome hit that jumper. I thought Giddey and Mann had a really good play down the stretch in the fourth where Mitchell Robinson had the ball down low, and Giddey and Mann both collapse. Giddey gets the strip. Tre Mann gets the what ends up being the steal. They push the ball in transition. Trey gets fouled, ties it up with 2 free throws. The Knicks miss. Giddey gets the rebound. Thunder ball with 20 seconds. We'll talk about Giddey's uncharacteristic 7 turnovers, I believe. His 7th came on a inbound pass there with about 20 seconds to go. That led to the Knicks getting a wide open layup. The Knicks are up 2 with 15 seconds left. Thunder ball. But then Bazley, good Baze, continues, has an incredible drive on the baseline, I believe against Mitchell Robinson. It was either him or Randall.
It was against Mitchell Robinson, who's an incredible shot blocker.
Yeah, it comes out there and gives him a little bit of space. He obviously is trying to bait Bazley into shooting the 3, but also recovered enough where he could contest the shot. Bazley drives right by him baseline. An incredible
hits him with the spin move.
I didn't realize. I forgot it was
hits him with the spin move. It was like drunk baby Bambi spin move. But it
wasn't pretty, but it got the job done.
Yeah.
But he finished with a very pretty reverse layup that he missed a couple of those earlier in the game, and he redeemed himself there to tie it up, putting it into overtime. He actually defends Julius Randle really well, and what could have been a game winner to force it into overtime. Overtime happens. Hey. Trey Mann takes the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say Bazley also in that fourth quarter got a tie up with Mitchell Robinson and was like trying to rip the ball out of his arms, yelling "jump ball!" And
He wouldn't let go of it. He's like, no, I'm
I
ripping
love
this from
that.
you.
Like,
I
it's
love
a
it so
fight.
much.
Like, get this team is a lot of fun. Sorry, not to cut you off from the
No.
the recap, just real quick. This team is a lot of fun. Kind of like early Thunder years. They need. I don't want to cuss on the pod, so we don't have to bleep it out later. So they need some mother effer in them, right?
They
just
need a little bit of that Russell Westbrook.
They need some of that Perkins. They need some mother effort in them, and Bays brought some of that tonight, and I was very excited.
And not only that, but you could see, I mean, the guys on the bench, obviously Shea and Lou are just fired up. The other leaders of the team, seeing Bays take that initiative. You saw Kenrich right there with Baisley. Like, I got your back, and I'm not letting – he has his hands on the ball too. He's like, I'm not letting Mitchell Robinson take this ball from us.
Which, Taylor, is almost a stark contrast from earlier in the year when Russell Westbrook got upset that Baisley dunked at the end of that Lakers game, and the Thunder players were basically trying to pull Bays away, saying, like, we messed up. Sorry, we shouldn't have dunked it. Like, no, like, dunk that shit. Talk your shit.
Yeah.
Like, strut around.
I think that's a good point.
Fight, like
we belong. We belong
it's
here.
It's a culture shift.
Exactly. And not out of hand either. Like, Base isn't going and like throwing elbows or anything like that. Like,
I'd love it if you would.
It was passion. It's just passion. But to that point, we see Trey Mann take over in in overtime. Just really fun stuff from him. I'm not even going to touch on that because I want to touch on that when we talk about Trey's overall game. Randall had just a horrendous turnover there in overtime, Jacob, where he threw the ball out of bounds.
To row 15.
I mean, yeah, literally. The Thunder were playing great defense, but still, that was horrendous. And then somehow or another, Ty Jerome misses both free throws that would have basically iced the game. The Knicks were down 3 with 5 seconds to go. Quickly got a very solid look in the corner, but the three was just a little long. Josh Giddey, who else, gets the rebound. He only hits 1 of 2 free throws after that, but it didn't matter. That was
and it was the second of 2, which kind of had everyone's butthole clenched a little bit.
Especially after the missed free throws that the Thunder were missing there down the stretch. But nonetheless, Thunder pull out an extremely fun one. I'm sorry, that took a little longer than it probably should.
No, that's
fine.
There's
so much to cover.
We
might even just go long for this post game because it was such a fun game. And we're getting close to All-Star break, right? So some not as many pods coming from us here, I guess, for the latter part of the month. Just a really, really fun one.
Yeah.
First game
also,
this
I like
season
how this is your post game. I volunteered to come on to talk with you, and then Taylor drops we'll go long on this one. Thanks, Taylor.
Thanks for coming on, Jacob, for an hour-long post game podcast. This is the first game this season with 3 players scoring 20 plus for OKC. That's kind of a wild stat. And then this is a fun one too. The Thunder are 4-0 now when shooting north of 50%, or I guess now we have to say north of or 50% because they shot 50% exactly tonight.
Oh, wow.
Really fun stuff. Really fun stuff. So, sorry, that was from Nick Gallo originally tweeted out the stat about 3-0. I improvised it after the win. Shout out to Nick Gallo. Awesome guy. And I love his stats throughout the game. Ton of fun. Now, let's get into the fun stuff. Let's get into the themes. Where do you want to start? Should we start like with the best or should we
Let's start with Josh. We got to start with Josh. You ready for hot take number 2?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. This one's kind of spicy. Is it a good thing that Shea is out and Josh is playing this way? That way, when Shea because when Shea was in, it was a lot of ISO Shea and then give Josh his turns. And then now Josh is doing what he's doing. Shea is seeing it from the sideline. So when Shea so when Shea comes back, he thinks like, okay, I'm going to let Josh work a little more and I'm going to work off ball to score. Like, is it a good thing that Shea is seeing Josh do this while Shea is not on the court? That way, when he comes back, he understands that he needs to fit a little bit more and not force.
I love that take. And I love it from 2 different angles. One, Josh having the opportunity to do what he's doing. I tweeted out that, and I guess I kind of alluded to what you're saying. I didn't flat out say like blessing in disguise that Shea's hurt right now, but I did say on our account, mentioning how, and we talked about this in our group podcast that we did yesterday, Jacob, but guys like obviously Lou, but Lou didn't play tonight. But Josh Giddey, Trey Mann, and Baisley particularly, you could maybe throw Poku in there. You could maybe throw Dort in there, even though Dort, has just been playing on a high level. But primarily those 3, Baisley, Josh, and Mann. It's giving them much more opportunity to step up. We've seen improvements. We've seen significant improvements, even with Shea out. And so I think that's going to pay a lot of dividends moving forward. And I am very curious, like we said yesterday, to see how this team looks when, or at this point, I think we should say if Shea comes back. And I don't mean that because Shea's not healthy. I mean that from like, again, more rabbit holes. But from a tanking standpoint, I'm not sure how long you can keep this up. We'll get into that. And if you bring Shea back, like this team could be really, really good, especially if Lou's full health. But also to your point, I didn't even think about the other side of this, the other angle that you brought up, that Shea is watching this from the sidelines. For example, after Josh hits 2 deep threes in the second quarter, that just got me so fired up. There was no other teammate more fired up, I think, than Shea Gilgeous-Alexander watching on the sideline. So I think you're onto something there. Shea's realizing this. He's seeing this improvement from these guys as well. He's excited about it. Hopefully he'll we don't want to passive Shea, but hopefully he finds ways to incorporate that and not hinder some of the development we've seen from these guys when he comes back.
100%. Hey, stats.nba.com has updated with tonight's game. In the last 9 games without Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey's played all 9, 33 minutes a game. So only 33 minutes, averaging 16, 9, and 7.
Now tonight he gets 38, which I love. I was a little nervous there that maybe Daignault would kind of try and stick to that, 32, 33 minute per game.
Well, he would have got 33 if it didn't go to overtime.
Well, that's fair. Well, yeah, good point. Yeah, good point.
Thank you.
Him and Baisley had 39. Josh had 38. They led the Thunder in minutes.
Let's continue on. Let's continue on Josh a little bit. Crazy efficient, 50% from the field, 75% from Lee.
3.
Yeah, that's the exciting one. 12 assists, 11 rebounds. The assists, just so much sauce.
Just some incredible passes. He had that one the first quarter. It literally, I mean, I know we always talk about Josh was like a quarterback, and he had his one-on-one he did with Royce Young of the Thunder, mentioning kind of studying quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, but he literally had just almost a half court, just an absolute dart to Baisley, who actually ended up missing the layup. But just some of those passes, like you said, Jacob, are phenomenal. To that point of the passes, the one area he struggled, and you don't even mind it when he's putting up these kind of stats as efficient as he is and basically leads the team and gets you a victory against a solid Eastern Conference team. 7 turnovers. A friend of the podcast, Matt Clarkson. Matt Clarkson. Gosh, I can't talk. Matt Clarkson tweeted at us. And he, or I think he just tweeted in general, and I saw it. He mentioned, that maybe being the biggest, most glaring of Josh's big stat line. I think that's fair because that's very uncharacteristic of him. But again, without Lou, without Shea on the floor, a much bigger role for him, putting up the numbers that he is, I think it makes sense that he would have 7 turnovers. I'm curious your thoughts on the turnovers, Jacob.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And he's young, and he's going to make mistakes and make some bad reads from time to time. But you want him to work through those. You don't want to discourage him to where, you're turning the ball over too much. Stop trying to do too much. You want him to learn through those things. And I think those turnovers are fine. Also, while you've been talking, I'm just randomly searching stats. In the 9 games since Shea's been out, Josh Giddey has 13 potential assists per game.
That's insane.
Dude's just spraying the ball all around the court. Tonight,
you guys got guys like teammates like Trey Mann and others stepping up, and then you're potentially either drafting or trading for more efficient players who can knock down shots. I mean, we're looking at a guy that can average double digits assists for multiple seasons.
We've said it time and time again. When this team gets a big that can catch passes above the rim and add vertical spacing, it's a free 3 assists a game for Josh on alley-oops.
Very true. But Jacob, obviously we know how great of a scorer Josh is. You and I, our entire podcast, all of Thunder fans have talked about his passing from his very first game with the Thunder. His scoring tonight and his assertiveness, taking over the game for really the majority of the game, and just in all areas, I think was just really, really impressive. And to see him score like he did, shooting 3 of 4 from 3, just
the
really
3 of 4
stuff.
from 3. We've been talking a lot about how the three-pointer is what he needs to get. If he gets that, he becomes a really dangerous shooter or a really dangerous player. Tonight was an example of what he becomes if that 3-pointer comes around.
I love that.
Also, he had some drives where he would just go in and just push people off of him. He had 2 dunks tonight.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was going to mention. I'm glad you brought that up. I completely forgot about that. I was thinking about that post
Dude's
game.
dunking the ball, which is awesome.
Two-handed dunks driving to the rim,
Now,
and he was fired up.
I have to give a negative on Josh. Okay, stop bitching at the refs.
Yeah,
It's giving me shades of Luka, and I don't like it. Luka's incredible. Luka bitches about everything. Like, it was embarrassing watching the Dallas Mavericks play the Thunder the other night. Luka gets the call, doesn't get the call, timeout. Every play, Luka complains, and I don't want Josh to become that type of player. Just play the game.
It seems to be a thing with players that start in OKC. James Harden, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and then, like you said, Luka, obviously not starting with the Thunder, but no, you're right.
If he started with the Thunder.
But there's a part of me that's okay with where it's at right now. I agree with you completely. I don't want to see this like escalate and continue to grow as Josh gets more and more confident, even a little cocky, as some of that turns into cockiness and some of that results in him going after the refs. But when he's playing with the kind of fire and passion that he is tonight, I understand it. To your point, I don't want to see it escalate any more than we really saw. I'm exactly with you. Speaking of Luka Doncic,
Sorry, just before we move on from Josh, I wanted to mention maybe my favorite Josh play of the night.
Yeah. No, okay. Please do. And I think I was just going to put a bow on everything with some of the Giddey stats, so I think this is perfect.
Okay, awesome. God, I can't remember when this play happened. It all kind of blurs together. He had the Thunder. This had to have been the beginning of the third quarter. Josh, at the top of the key, live dribble, goes left around a screen with the ball in his left hand. I'm trying to visualize this. Goes left around the screen, takes a step or two inside the 3-point line, throws an off the dribble bullet, one-handed lefty pass to the opposite corner to Aaron Wiggins. Aaron catches, head fakes, drives. Josh doesn't stop in the paint. Cuts down the middle of the lane. Cuts down the middle and stands with his hands open. Aaron catches the pass, one dribble, fires it again right back to Josh, almost like a very spaced out give and go. Josh catches it, lays it in for the win. Or not for the win, but for the bucket.
That was such a good play that I have that in my notes somewhere. And, well, maybe not. I think that was the third quarter, though.
It was the third quarter. Play. It's that is the epitome of using passing to make the game easier. The whole point of making good passes is to get easier baskets, to get shots that have a higher percentage chance of going in because you make the game easier for yourself. That play is the epitome of that idea.
Absolutely. And I think it's a very just like a perfect example of the contrasting styles of play and the different views of the organization when they were building around Thunder 1.0, the Russ, KD, Harden, but less Harden, obviously more so Russ, KD, and then just Russ PG versus now what they're trying to build towards. It's that sustainability. And like you said, this is kind of an overall thing that maybe we'll end with once we get through some of these players, because I think it's so important. I love how you tweeted it out, but just the style play, the culture that they're building, that stays in place regardless of who's on the floor. Mm-hmm. But just to put on a bow on Giddey's incredible night, Giddey becomes the first rookie since Luka. You mentioned Luka, so I thought that was a perfect transition to record back-to-back triple-doubles, and it's just the fourth player ever to get a triple-double in his first ever game against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. He became only the seventh rookie to ever have back-to-back triple-doubles. The last player to do so, none other than newly acquired Nets power forward / small forward / whatever you want to call him, Ben Simmons. And only players with triple doubles in the first game at Madison Square Garden: Wilt Chamberlain, Magic Johnson, Chuck Person. That's kind of funny. I don't even know who Chuck Person is. I just see his like name in the stat sheets every once, or the stat record.
The dude was a hooper.
Yeah, but he was a hooper. And then Josh Giddey. And I think I already said this first team. Oh no, I didn't say this. First ever teen in history with a triple double versus the Knicks. That's kind of fun as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just absurd game from Josh Giddey. Next Thunder player we probably need to talk about. We'll talk about him almost as much, I'm sure. Trey Mann. I mean, I knew he was going to be fun as the seasons progressed. We've talked about how fun he is and like how he really can be a really special scorer for this team. And even then, Jacob, I don't know that I knew he had this in him. With Lou Dort, with Shea out as a rookie in Madison Square Garden, one of his other rookies is stepping up. I did not expect Trey Mann to go off like he did tonight with the confidence that he had, just driving to the rim fearlessly, knocking down shots with ease, not second guessing himself, and then competing hard on the defensive end. Trey Mann was phenomenal. 30 points, 2 rebounds, 30 points career high, obviously. 28 points, I should say, was career high for Giddey as well. So 30 points for Trey Mann, 2 rebounds, 9 of 16 from the floor, very efficient, 4 of 7 from 3. I mean, as a rookie in Madison Square Garden, that almost blows me away more than the Giddey stuff, just because we have seen Giddey flirt with this level of play. I mean, Trey Mann just kind of like blew the ceiling, blew through the ceiling.
A shout out to Trey 1K.
Might bring me if I let you draw the boat, will you keep my head up from singing? Say time is everything we have, and don't just let that sink in. And this life is sin, I just pray for forgiveness. My vision 2020, I spot the fate from a distance.
A man of many talents.
I was going to say a man of many. Dang it.
A man of many talents. Man. Taylor, sometimes I worry about.
Is this take number 3?
No. So, maybe. Sometimes I worry about, like, I really try to be. I bring some ridiculous takes for podcast value.
The podcast, absolutely.
Right? But I grew up a Thunder fan, right? I've been a Thunder fan ever since the team relocated here. And I have tried to pivot from being a fan to, as the podcast has grown, being more unbiased, right? And evaluating the team for what it is, and not being a fanboy. So I don't know if I'm fanboying over Trey Mann, or if the things that we're seeing and the things that he's doing are this special. But the dude just has some tools that will allow him to be like a really special player in the league. Eamon in the chat says, how old young is Jacob to have, quote, grown up a Thunder fan? My man, I am 31. So I've been a Thunder fan since I was like, what is that, Taylor? Like 19?
Yeah.
About 19, 18 years old.
You're 13 now? Is that right? Or 14?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So since I was about 17, 18 years old, I'm 31 now. I'm not the old man of the podcast. That would be our guy, Justin Peabody.
Justin has you beat by like 2 or 3 months, if I remember right.
I think that's right. And then I have Kamiar beat by a year. And then you're next, right? What are you, 27? Yes.
I'm 27. I turned 27 in January, and then Nick turns 27 in March. Nick and I grew up together. Nick and I were both at the inaugural Thunder game. Speaking of growing up as Thunder fans.
Nick turns 27 in March?
Yeah. Okay. Coming up, I believe.
And then I think Silva's like 24, 25.
Is he really? I didn't know he was that young. That's
he's
funny.
a child.
That's hilarious.
He's a little baby Silva.
Hey, multi-time mop floor boys, me and Nick.
There you go. See, so we've been. Eamon says he guesses that I'm old / young enough. Appreciate it, Eamon. Ben says, "Bring back the OKC Hornets Valentine's Day jersey, you cowards."
And I saw a Photoshop of Josh Giddey in one today. That was sharp.
Trey Mann does stuff that just the effortlessness of him getting to that shot, of him creating ISO offense, of him creating offense for others is incredible. And Taylor, you tweeted this from the count, I believe. We got full Skittles and broccoli Trey Mann tonight. There was a play, what was that, in the fourth quarter, where Julius Randle got an offensive rebound and Trey dug down and swiped at the ball and knocked it off Randle's leg out of bounds and caused a turnover. And then there was a time where he missed being too aggressive down low, and Mark yanked his ass and put him on the bench.
Yep. So this is also Nick Gallo. Like I said, I love Nick Gallo's stats and tweets throughout the game. Hell of a broccoli play by Trey Mann. Dug down on Randle in the post and stripped the ball off of Randle's knee.
I love it. And if the listeners of the show have not yet watched Royce Young's latest video about Skittles and broccoli and Trey Mann,
Mark and Trey were both great.
Yeah, Mark was just incredible in that. and how he describes like what he's trying to get Trey Mann to do, this mindset of just being tough, right, and being physical. Absolutely love it, and I think Trey showed some of that tonight. Trey's offensive ceiling is like
through the roof. I mean, 30 points, like I said, 9 of 16 shooting, 8 of 8 from the free throw line, Jacob. There's a lot of players, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being one. If the last 2 off seasons, primarily this past one, I think if listeners go back and listen to some of our off-season preview pods, this is something you've talked about, I've talked about. We both really wanted to see Shai be more aggressive and get to the free throw line more. We thought that was kind of his next step into potential all-stardom and superstardom. And we wanted that from some other players as well, like Lou Dort, for example. We talked about him yesterday, right? But to see a guy like Trey Mann, a rookie, not only that, but like he's a decent sized player. Don't get me wrong, but as a shooting guard, listed as a point guard, 6'4", like he's not the biggest guy on the floor. And for him to be driving against guys like Mitchell Robinson and finishing over him, guys
that
like Julius
that
Randle,
righty off the dribble scoop over Mitchell Robinson
was
just absurd.
And he did the same thing on the left side, I think in the fourth quarter, and I want to say it was Randall or somebody.
Oh, and in
overtime, free throw.
In overtime, the defensive rebound fast break Euro to the left that just rolled off and he got fouled. I mean, okay, F it. You ready for another take?
I put my name on this one. I think you're going to, on the account that I think you're getting to. Like, we haven't seen this since OKC James Harden.
Trey Mann, minus the passing, plays a lot like another Trey in the league.
Oh, the one that tweeted about Giddey and Mann going off in Madison Square Garden. Did you see that? Trey Young tweeted out.
I did not see that.
Tweeted out that Giddey and Mann putting on a show at MSG or something like that with a bunch of fire emojis. So, of course, I quote tweeted him from the account and said, Trey, come home and win a championship. So we'll see if
Trey Young will be about 3/4 of a mile away from my house Friday night getting his jersey retired at his alma mater, Norman North High School. I might sneak over there with a microphone. His dad,
Ray Young, is hitting up the phones, working the phones tonight, saying, look, off-season, Presty, SGA for Trey. I need you to do it. Presty will not do it, but...
Yeah. Trey Mann's game looks a lot like Trey Young's minus the passing. The kind of smaller guard, scoop shots, Euro step, floater, step back threes.
Pure shot, pure shooting motion. I love that.
I
actually like that a lot.
I see a little bit there.
I like that a whole lot. So I guess the last thing I was going to say about Trey, and then maybe instead of transitioning to another player, we'll just maybe transition to the third biggest theme overall. And then to end the podcast, we can touch on some of these other guys.
We got to get this thing rolling a bit.
Yeah, you alluded to this. We'll be out here in the next 7 minutes. I'll make sure we're done by
7 minutes. I got a timer. Let's go.
We'll see if Taylor can shut up long enough. But you tweeted this out, and I thought it was spot on. You said, this was after the game. You said OKC is trotting out rookies, in parentheses, and they statistically don't help winning. G League guys and dudes still on rookie skill deals and are competitive and winning. You said, I think it's absolutely credited to the coaching, accountability, and culture Presti, Dedan, and Co. have built. So I quote tweeted you from the account because I really like that. And I said the perfect example. I personally was upset with this a little bit because I feel like Trey Mann should be getting a little more of a leash. But like you said, in that one-on-one that Royce did with Trey Mann on the Broccoli's and Skittles, and he pulled in Dedan. Dedan did a really good job of kind of describing why he coaches a player differently, like Trey Mann versus a Baisley or versus a Josh Giddey or versus an SGA. I thought he did a really good job of that. Still, when Trey Mann came out firing in the third quarter and then he gets yanked for just like a small mistake, that was a little frustrating for me as a fan. But anyways, I said perfect example. Mann came out in the third scoring when hardly anyone else on the team was. He still got pulled early for a missed defensive assignment, and they zoomed in on him briefly on the bench, Jacob, and you could tell that Mann was a bit frustrated. He also didn't come back in until like the fourth because some of that was because Ty Jerome was playing well. But still, one of your best scorers the entire game doesn't come back until later in the fourth. He ends up honestly taking over in overtime, maybe even more than Giddey did. Drops a career high 30 points after that. And I think it's just a perfect example of what you were alluding to. The the system that they have in place. It doesn't matter. Tre Mann at this stage is going off like he was. They're still going to pull him for some of those mistakes. They want him to be aware of those things. They aren't, you've got to eat your broccoli still.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
It doesn't matter if your team is winning.
Exactly.
You still have to do these things.
Exactly.
Right, regardless.
So I think that's a
this is
perfect
your
transition
baseline
to what you were saying earlier about the Thunder culture. And I kind of want to let you get to your, I think you said you had another big point about this as well. Or big take, sorry.
I don't know if I have a big take. If I did, I forgot it. But
maybe it was just related to the Knicks not having it.
Yeah, the Knicks sucking. But just the alignment of the Thunder from the front office down to the coaching staff, down to the players, the buy-in, the attention to detail, like that Trey Mann story, and pulling him for not being physical, not playing tough, not being scrappy defensively, holding him to a higher standard. Even if he gets pissed off, you hold him to a higher standard, and you let the whole team know that this is the standard you play to. That's stuff I feel like you don't see a lot in professional sports. I think it's made easier because the Thunder are comprised of so many young guys. But yeah, just the culture that this team has built. I don't think Mark Daigneault gets the credit he deserves. I think he's been incredible. Just as a person, as a man, his ethos, his philosophy, what makes him tick and how he goes about building a team. And
how he leads those guys and instills
how he
confidence
leads,
in them,
how he holds,
demands respect.
Mm-hmm, the accountability level.
With him being young and some of these guys being like stars like Shane Liu, they still listen to him.
I think they're building something very special there, and it's very exciting to see. And I think you and I talked about this Sunday afternoon on the pod. I think, and maybe this can wrap us up here, Taylor. I think the prime example of that is you look at what Darius Bazley's doing.
Yes.
You look at Bazley, how he's been performing, how he has bounced back, and some of the things that he's said in interviews about how, he's a perfectionist and how much he respects Mark Daigneault and how he is sometimes too hard on himself, but the coaching staff believes in him and blah, 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 blah. Like that stuff just goes to show the culture that they're setting, and it's something special. And even Kamiar was getting on my head tonight, so I got to do it again. I did it the other night. I've done it multiple times recently. But shout out to Bazley, who has really turned his season around. Tonight, 47% from the field, 23 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal. No blocks tonight, but he wanted the Julius Randle assignment.
Yes,
and he took it on. And like I mentioned, my favorite thing from him tonight was having that little bit of dog in him and scrapping with Mitchell Robinson. And shout out to Baze for turning his season and maybe his career around in the second half of this season. I hope to continue to see him do what he's been doing.
I agree completely. And we talked about this yesterday, him being upset after Saturday night's game saying, I don't really like the excuse, honestly, about just, being young. That's why we're losing, or that's why we come out hot, or falling in the clutch in some of these games. Well, tonight was exactly what Bazley wanted. And like you said, I thought he played really good defense on Randle, even if Randle did put up some of those Skittle stats. But all that to say, the final thought I have here, and this is something you tweeted out, and something I tweeted out from the account. When you have two of your very best players, and you could add in like a third solid piece in Muscala. So you have Shea, Lou, and Muscala out, right? And yet you still have Bazley putting up 23 points and 8 rebounds, Josh Giddey with his second straight and third career triple-double on ridiculously efficient stats, Trey Mann with a career-high 30 points as a starter, and then you still have guys coming off the bench like Kendrick Williams, who we could talk about every single post-game as a positive, or Ty Jerome, each of them with 13 points. I feel like, Jacob, and I talked about this yesterday, I think the Thunder are really going to have to try hard, and they're going to go all in on the tank post All-Star break because, and this is a good thing overall, but I don't this is your last shot potentially at a really good draft pick. And I don't mean to overreact to a February 14th overtime
win
game
against the trash tier Knicks.
Yeah, right. But the talent and I think the expectations that we have for some of these guys that they are exceeding, it really makes me think that organically they're going to be too good to tank. And that's a ridiculously overused phrase. But
I agree.
with another offseason, like you said in your tweet,
I don't think they're good enough to like compete for the playoffs next year.
Right.
But they're not getting top 4 odds next year.
Yeah, they're flirting.
If they just bring this roster back and a top 10 pick, like they're gonna be in like.
They might be the Grizzlies of last year, where they are in the play-in, right? Like,
yeah, or they might be like the Blazers of this year or the Pelicans of this year, where you're hovering at that 9-10 spot, and like it's. I don't see how. Maybe I'm just too high on them.
Yeah, right. And again, like it's hard to maybe take a step back, like you were saying earlier, after a game like tonight. But I tweeted out the same exact thing, and I'm willing to stand by it. I'll put my name on it. I don't really care. I think
I would love Victor Wembanyama.
Too good.
But
it just seems unrealistic unless you are able to trade up. Again, that's where the other avenues and Presti's creativeness and the different assets he's accumulated will come in handy. Either you're able to trade up for some of those guys in future drafts, or maybe the most realistic, you start to push some of those chips to the middle of the table and really start building.
I think we're going to see that in June. I really do, Taylor.
Good. That's exciting.
We're at the 7 minutes. We're actually at 8 minutes. You lying asshole. Last thing, as we get out of here, as you outro us, Josh Giddey just got the Mike Schmitz.
Oh, the
Adrian
highlight.
Wojnarowski retweet. So let the rookie of the year hype begin.
Hey, he also got the Kendrick Perkins shout out and the Trey Mann shout out. Like I said, a really, really, really fun game tonight for the Thunder. And like Jacob mentioned and alluded to, some really fun long-term themes. Sorry, Jacob, what were you saying?
No, you're just going to outro us over some Trey 1K tonight. He deserves it.
I mean, I might break into a little freestyle here. But again, another super fun game. A lot of fun things that came and big things that came from this game, like we talked about, but also some bigger overall themes as well. As the Thunder go into MSG without their 2 best players in Lou and Shea, and still end up getting the 127-123 game or win in overtime in MSG. Just really fun stuff. So, like I alluded to, we are getting closer and closer to All-Star break. Dan Contessa will only have one more post-game podcast for you guys before that. That will be against the San Antonio Spurs. Nick will have you all covered on Wednesday for that, so stay tuned. You never know what you're going to get with this team, so it should be another fun one. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for all those who came into the stream. This is one of our biggest viewed podcasts, well, outside the trade deadline breakdown. Really fun stuff. Thank you all again, and as always, Thunder up. Shout out Trey 1K.
Never get brought down by all the weight that's on my shoulders. Never been the type to get caught up in my emotions. Dream big, I got